Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karava Vahayi Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahayi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chai. We can recite together now. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Very good. Welcome back. We'll continue our study. We've just begun to look at a section from the Sabha Parva. Remember that we are taking selected passages and passages which are relevant to us as students of Vedanta. And the passage that's going to be taught in these chapters 45, 46, and 50, it's we get a lot of insight into psychology from the standpoint of Vedanta. The Mahabharata is not a psychology book, but we find psychological observations relating in a very important way to our study of Vedanta, and that's what we're going to see in an investigation into Duryodhana's envy and Dhritarashtra's internal weakness. Now, we've already given an introduction to the Sabha Parva at the end of the last class, so I just want to remind you that the opening section that we're seeing here is following Yudhishthira's Rajasuya Yajna. I also spoke about this in our meditation session. And that is, Yudhishthira has just concluded a ritual. At the conclusion of this ritual, Rajasuya Yajna, the kings from all the neighboring kingdoms, the kings show up bearing costly gifts which are bestowed upon Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira has just, as a result of his Rajasuya Yajna, from all the neighboring kingdoms, he has just received immeasurable wealth. Now, in our prior classes, we've already seen that Duryodhana has a problem with jealousy. We had some discussions about Matsarya. Matsarya being the sixth, the last of that list of the Shad-adi, the six internal enemies, Kama, Krodha, etc. So the number 6 of that list of internal enemies is Matsarya, is jealousy. And Duryodhana has a particular problem with that. And we're going to see now, in the beginning of this current chapter, that Duryodhana's envy, having seen this incredible wealth being bestowed upon his cousin Yudhishthira, Duryodhana's envy, as we say in American English, goes through the roof. And we'll see the consequences of that. That's the setup for our current study. So where we pick up the story now is in the palace, King Dhritarashtra with his eldest son Duryodhana and Shakuni. Shakuni is Dhritarashtra's brother-in-law, Duryodhana's uncle. And we'll see what unfolds here. We'll just see some verses and then explain as we go along. Shakuni uvacha, Shakuni uvacha, Duryodhana Maharaja, Duryodhano Vivarna Harina Krishaha, Vivarna Hari Dinaschinta Paraschaiva, Dinaschinta Paraschai, Tadvidhi Bharatar Shabha, Tadvidhi Bharatar. So Shakuni, who's the uncle who is, how shall we say, ethically compromised. Meaning he is not at all committed to dharma. and he frequently will take recourse to adharma whenever it's convenient. And it turns out that he's especially fond of his nephew, Duryodhana. So Uncle Shakuni, if I can use that expression, Uncle Shakuni. No, in Indian English we say Shakuni uncle. How's that? So Shakuni uncle sees his nephew's sadness and addresses Duryodhana's father. And Shakuni says to King Dhritarashtra, Maharaja, O great king, Duryodhana vivarnaha harinaha krishaha. Look at your son, Duryodhana. He is vivarnaha, pale. Harinaha. I'm not sure how to translate it. It literally means greenish in color. How somebody gets greenish in color. Anyway, the idea colorless or pale, sickly looking. That's a good translation. He looks sickly. Harinaha, green, literally green. And he is krishaha. He's grown very thin. Why would someone be colorless, pale, sickly, and he's grown thin? He continues to explain that he is dinaha. He is depressed. Well, one of the symptoms of depression is you lose. Some people eat more when they're depressed. Some people eat less when they're depressed. Either is possible. So due to his depression, he's eating less, and he is, and this is very important, chinta paraha. Chinta here means anxiety. Chinta paraha, he's overcome by anxiety. He's depressed and anxious. So pretty clear why he should have grown krisha, thin, emaciated, and that he looks pale and he looks sickly. And Shakuni says to his brother-in-law, Tadvidhi, look at that. Understand this, Bharatarshava, O king. Look at how ill your son has become. See how depressed and anxious he is. Look at how sickly and emaciated he is. Dhritarashtra vacha, Dhritarashtra Duryodhana kuto mulam, Duryodhana kuto Brishamartosi putraka, Brishamartosi put Shrotavyaschain maya sorto, Shrotavyaschain maya sor Bruhi me kurunandana, Bruhi me. So, King Dhritarashtra addresses his son, Duryodhana, O son, kuto mulam. What is the root cause? The root cause, putraka, O son, the root cause for you being artaha asi, artaha, afflicted. Artaha asi, you are afflicted. Brisham, you are so afflicted. Putraka, O son, what is the reason because of which you are so afflicted? Brisham, so afflicted, means that Duryodhana can see very clearly. His son is in really bad shape. Many of you are parents. You've seen your children having difficulties and struggles. And definitely when any parent sees their son or daughter having a difficult time, the parent's adrenaline kicks in. And the parent is ready to do anything to solve the problem. So this is Duryodhana recognizes that his son, Dhritarashtra recognizes his son Duryodhana is in bad shape. And he says, Kuto mulam, what is the cause? What is the root cause that you are so afflicted? Shrotavyaha chet maya saha artaha. Saha artaha, that reason, the reason for you being so afflicted, Shrotavyaha chet maya. I want to know. I want to know what is the reason for you being so afflicted. Bruhi me, tell me. Kurunandana, O beloved one, O dear one, Bruhi me, tell me the reason you are so afflicted. And for these verses that are just telling story, we'll continue to go through them quickly. We're going to come now, though, to a verse which we're going to spend some time on, and that is Duryodhana's response. Duryodhana uvacha, Duryodhana santosho vaishriyam hanti, santosho vaishriyam abhimanascha bharata, abhimanascha anukrosha bhaye chobhe, anukrosha bhaye cho yairvritto nashnute mahata, yairvritto nashnute mahata. This is an amazing verse. I find it an amazing verse. Duryodhana here explains, actually he doesn't explain the reason for his anxiety and depression. He's going to explain that later. But Duryodhana, as we'll see here, is actually something that we in the way the story is commonly told, you don't get a sense of Duryodhana's sharp intellect. He's really smart. And many retellings of the Mahabharata don't really show you his intellect. Now it happens that his intellect is somewhat perverted by his thinking. That's a fact. And we're going to see evidence of that in this verse. But let's be very clear. Duryodhana, in American English, is no dummy. He is highly intelligent. But intelligence cuts both ways. Sometimes intelligence becomes our own enemy. Intelligence can become our own enemy when we use our intelligence to justify our mistakes and problems. We often use our intelligence to make excuses for ourselves or to justify things that we're doing. Things that we're doing which are wrong, we sometimes justify with our intellect. Some of you have heard me give this example before. The famous 3 words. What are those famous 3 words? Just this once. Have you ever uttered those words? Just this once. What do those 3 words imply? First, it implies that whatever you're about to do, you know is wrong. And then the second thing is, you've given yourself permission to do it, even though it's wrong. Why have you given yourself permission to do it? You're only going to do it once, which is a lie. You're lying to yourself, because if you do it once, doesn't that make it more likely you'll do it a second and a third time? And you know that. Yet, we have all uttered those 3 words, just this once. This illustrates the ability we all have to use our intellect. The intellect, the buddhi that Ishvara gave us, the buddhi which is capable of discerning dharma versus adharma, that buddhi which can be and should be employed to keep us on the path of dharma, sometimes that buddhi, that intellect, is used to give us an excuse to stray from the path of dharma. In English, we call this rationalization. Rationalization means to come up for a rational excuse for doing something wrong. Rationalization. You all know that. Okay, so Duryodhana now is using his powerful intellect not to keep him on the path of dharma, but he's using his powerful intellect to justify his own feelings, including his own jealousy. If somebody has a powerful buddhi and you recognize, oh, I'm jealous, you should deal with the jealousy, right? If your intellect is clear, There are ways of dealing with jealousy. We had that meditation session earlier today, and that was one way of dealing with that jealousy, is some form of contemplation, pratipaksha bhavana, we talked about at great length. But Duryodhana is not inclined to do that. So instead of trying to get rid of his jealousy, he justifies it. And I'm kind of making a point here because this is not an uncommon problem. This is not just Duryodhana's problem. This is everyone's problem, that sometimes we make excuses for ourselves. We use our intellects to justify our feelings, justify our position. Why? I'm always right. You know someone like that, right? Someone who thinks they're always right. Okay, so Duryodhana is like that. He's always right. And what does he say? So he's going to explain the reason for his anxiety and depression later. Right now, he responds to his father by sharing his justification, his rationalization. So this is Duryodhana's rationalization. What is that? Santoshaha vai shriyam hanti. This is his personal philosophy. Duryodhana's personal philosophy is what? Santoshaha, contentment. Vai, indeed. Contentment, shriyam hanti. Contentment is the enemy of wealth. Contentment is the enemy of wealth. Reflect, that's his personal philosophy. Contentment is the enemy of wealth. Wait a minute. You have to admit, he's got a point. Right? He's got a point. You can't dismiss the statement as being ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. Someone who's content is less likely to pursue wealth. So santoshaha vai shriyam hanti, literally kills wealth. The idea is it's the enemy of wealth. Contentment is the enemy of wealth. Abhimanaha cha Bharata, O king. Abhimanaha cha. Abhimana here means healthy pride, feeling good about yourself. Abhimana can have other meanings. Here it means pride in the good sense, feeling good about yourself. Being content and feeling good about yourself is the enemy of wealth. And no doubt, all the people on what they used to call it Madison Avenue in New York, where I think all the advertising firms used to be. I don't know if they're still there. Madison Avenue is an old-fashioned reference to the advertising industry. So think about many of you watch television, and especially this time of year, you start getting bombarded with ads with the holidays coming. And what is the basic mechanism of commercial advertising? The goal of commercial advertising is to get you to buy their product. So how will they get you to buy their product? If the advertisement comes up and the guy says, I want you to buy our product, will you buy the product? Who cares? You want me to buy the product? I don't care what you want. So what does the advertisement say? What does the commercial say? The commercial says, if you don't have our product, you are, you're just such a loser. You don't have our product? What kind of miserable person are you? You don't have our product. I remember seeing one commercial for some car, and they're talking about children and how their vehicle is safe, and safe if you have children. And the message of the commercial, in so many words, the unspoken message of the commercial is, if you don't own our car, what kind of parent are you? You don't care at all about your children if you don't own our car, because our car is the safest car. Now, notice the underlying principle then of advertising is to make you feel discontent, right? To make you feel discontent with your current situation. And then the advertiser will say, and that the solution to your discontent is our product. Isn't that the basic psychological strategy of almost all commercial advertising? The advertiser will make you feel inadequate and incomplete in the absence of their product, and then say, all you need to do is get our product, and you'll be content, you'll be happy, everything will be okay. So, Duryodhana has a point, and it's a point well understood by the advertising industry and by many others, and that is, santoshaha, contentment, is absolutely the enemy of wealth. If you are content, will you buy that product? If you're already content, who cares? You don't need more stuff. You don't need another car. You don't need this. You don't need that. If you're really content. It is discontentment that drives us into action. Now, look at this. Discontentment drives us to action. Statement of fact, and a statement that may have some positive merit as well, especially in a capitalistic society, economy. And we see in this country and in India and in elsewhere, if you want something, you better work hard and you can get it. And isn't that what Duryodhana is observing here? That is, if you are discontent, you will be driven to strive and succeed. You can't argue that. If you are discontent, you will be driven to succeed, without doubt. But then he says, santoshaha, contentment, and abhimanaha, pride, are the enemy of wealth. We have to agree with him. We have to agree with him. But what is the goal of life? There's a problem here. What he says is true. You can't deny that. But the problem underlying this is the presupposition behind it. The presupposition is what? That wealth is what makes life valuable. Wealth is the ultimate goal of life. Isn't that the presupposition? Wealth is the ultimate goal of life, and contentment and feeling good about yourself are the enemies of wealth. Therefore, contentment and wealth and feeling good about yourself are the enemies to really gaining what's most important in life. But let's be very, very clear about this. The goal of life is not wealth. You know that very well. In fact, what word might you use for the goal of life? Wealth is valuable. Why? What is it that makes wealth valuable? And what makes wealth valuable is that you can spend that wealth and you can be very content. One of the words we use to describe the goal of life is contentment. Don't we? Don't we say the goal? Who will say the goal of life is wealth? Most people. And certainly none of you. None of you would say the goal of life is wealth. Many of you would say the goal of life is contentment. What is Duryodhana saying here? Contentment is the enemy of wealth. Who cares? Who cares? Meaning, if the goal is contentment, what is the point of striving harder? Let's be very clear. This is actually a big topic. Allow me to develop this, because so often a very common question I've heard in Vedantic circles is this. Vedanta teaches us how to become free from desire, right? One of the central teachings of Vedanta is that desire is part of the root problems, and therefore we should learn how to become free from the grasp, as it were, of desire. Then someone will argue like this. Not surprisingly, they'll argue, Swamiji, wait a minute. If I become desireless, they always use that kind of expression, if I become desireless, then what would motivate me to do anything? Why would I go to work? Why would I get out of bed in the morning? Etc., etc., etc. So that common misunderstanding makes desirelessness an enemy to successful life. Desirelessness is a synonym for santosha. It's the same thing. Swamiji, if I study too much Vedanta, I'll get so much vairagya, so much dispassion, I won't take care of my family, I won't go to work, I won't do this, I won't do that. Then isn't that Vedantic teaching harmful? Well, first of all, it's a little naive the way that person conceives of desirelessness. Desirelessness, better understood, is being freed from your own agenda, your selfish agenda, self-interest. To be free from self-interest is what we're after. Not a state of utter apathy. Desirelessness is not a state of utter apathy. Apathy means I don't care. I don't care about anything. I don't care about you. That's undesirable, absolutely undesirable. But that's not what Vedanta talks about. When we talk about desirelessness in Vedanta, we talk about absence of one's selfish desires, absence of self-interest, absence of having an agenda for oneself. And notice that if you don't have an agenda for oneself, it doesn't mean you become inactive, because others have agendas that need to be fulfilled. There are responsibilities that need to be fulfilled. One who is agendaless is one who is free to fulfill their responsibilities. One who is agendaless, Puja Swami Dayananda likes that word very much. One who is freed from their own personal agenda is one who is free inside to fulfill their responsibilities without any shortcomings. Usually, we all fulfill our responsibilities, but sometimes when it becomes inconvenient, some of those responsibilities may not get fulfilled. Why is it inconvenient? It's not part of my agenda. It interferes with my agenda. Anyway, so here Vedanta gets misunderstood. Desirelessness is not a state of utter apathy. Desirelessness means your heart is no longer under the thrall of desire. That is, you're no longer being manipulated and controlled by your own desires. If you're not manipulated and controlled by your own desires, you are free to follow Dharma. So notice then, desirelessness culminates in freedom to follow Dharma, freedom to fulfill your responsibilities without a sense of inner conflict. It is not, desirelessness is not a state of utter inactivity or apathy. So, what is Duryodhana's confusion here? Duryodhana's confusion is clearly, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is not the accumulation of wealth. The purpose of life is peace and contentment for you and your family. Is wealth important for that peace and contentment? Absolutely. But it's equally true that you can have a lot of wealth and still be really miserable and discontent. So we realize the practical value of wealth, but the ultimate goal is not wealth. The ultimate goal is indeed contentment, and Duryodhana is clueless about that. And that's expressed here. He says, Santoshaha vai Shreyam hanti. Contentment is the enemy of wealth. The underlying conclusion is that the goal of life is wealth. All right, enough said. So, santosha, not only santosha contentment, but abhimana, feeling good about yourself. If you don't, boy, that goes back to commercials again. Do you see? Occasionally, I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I turn it on, I'm kind of amazed at all these commercials, and especially commercials for women's cosmetics. This is very interesting. Because what is the idea behind all the cosmetics for women? The underlying idea is when you look at your face in the mirror, you must think, oh God, look at that. And I better fix that up. I need more cosmetics to fix that up. So this is the opposite of abhimana. Abhimana here means feeling good about yourself. If all women looked in the mirror and felt good about themselves, what would happen to these cosmetics companies? They'd all go broke. Okay. So Duryodhana makes a very interesting observation here. He correctly says that contentment and good pride, healthy pride, feeling good about yourself, contentment and healthy pride are indeed the enemies of wealth. We agree with him. But the goal of life is not mere wealth. And that's where Duryodhana is off. And he says further, he says also, anukrosha and bhaya. Anukrosha is compassion, and bhaya is fear. Cha ubhe, both of these, both compassion and fear. Yaihi vrittaha, one who has a lot of compassion and fear, na ashnute mahat. That person never gains greatness in life. One who has compassion and fear never gains the greatness of life. Now let's examine this. One who has fear doesn't gain greatness. Ask an entrepreneur if they will agree with this. They'll say, yeah, correct. If you're afraid to take a risk, how will you come up? How will you possibly come up in life? So every entrepreneur will say, you must take risks. In fact, he'll even say you must be prepared to fail several times. Only through taking risks and even suffering failure, only then will you really be successful. So I think Bill Gates would agree with Duryodhana, and that is that bhaya, fear, yaihi vritaha, one who has fear, na ashnute mahat, will never climb to greatness. Similarly, compassion. One who has great compassion will not climb to the highest realms. Imagine in a business place, if you have compassion on all your colleagues. Imagine 10 colleagues in the same department and one ladder leading from this department to the next higher department. 10 of you vying for your place on that ladder. Corporate America. 10 people vying for one position. Competition. Competition is inherent in our business structure. So of these 10, if you are the one who's compassionate, oh, go ahead. You first. How do you say? Aap pehle. So if you are that compassionate one, will you ever make it up that ladder? Forget it. There are 9 ahead of you. Aap pehle, aap pehle, aap pehle. Each one will go before you. So here again, Duryodhana is making sense. He is. He says that compassion and fear, one who is dominate, one whose mind is overruled by compassion and fear, that person will not reach to the heights of life. I don't know if any of you read these books of this Ayn Rand. And she actually developed this philosophy called objectivism, and it seems to be a statement of her philosophy, and that is, it's like a philosophy of individualism. And her theory is that if every individual strives, then society is great because every individual is successful. They're all striving in parallel. It's very short-sighted. And here's the problem. Again, it's actually a true statement. That is to say that compassion and fear will keep you from the maximum accomplishment in life. What is the goal of life? Maximum accomplishment? You see, it's the same error. Just as the first half of the verse implied that wealth is the ultimate goal of life, the second half of the verse implies that this mahat, this great accomplishments, na ashnute mahat, they will not achieve the greatest accomplishments. Is that really the goal of life? If we say the goal of life is contentment and inner peace, then all of Duryodhana's statements are shown to be defective. But overlooking that, if you look at the world in a very simple-minded way, the goal of life is to make a lot of money and gain a lot of power. Basically, isn't that what he says? The first half of the verse suggests that gaining money is the goal of life. The second half of the verse says gaining power is a goal of life. So the enemy of gaining money in life is contentment and feeling good about yourself. The obstacle to gaining power in life is compassion and fear, timidness. So he's absolutely correct. If you want power, you better be fearless and have no compassion. You can't argue. But what is the goal of life? And clearly Duryodhana is clueless about what is truly of value in life. And it's important, and that's what this verse is meant for, to give us all an opportunity to reflect on what is really valuable in life. And sometimes we lose sight of that. It's a good time to recall. Mere wealth and power or status, whatever you want to call it, these cannot be the ultimate goals of life. Okay, enough. So now Duryodhana continues. Namam havati yad bhuktam, namam havati yad shriyam drishtva yudhishthire, shriyam drishtva jwalantim iva kaunteye, jwalantim iva kaunt, vivarna karanim mama, vivarna karanim. I made reference to this in our meditation workshop. Second line, drishtva, having seen, yudhishthire shriyam, having seen Yudhishthira's wealth, having seen, remember at the end of that Rajasuya, so much incredible wealth was given to Yudhishthira by all of the surrounding kingdoms. And here Duryodhana complains, having seen that amazing wealth being given to Yudhishthira, namam avati tadbhuktam. Tadbhuktam, whatever I enjoy in life, namam avati, that doesn't satisfy me. Whatever I have no longer satisfies me, having seen the incredible wealth that Yudhishthira has gained. Now this is really ironic in a sad way. Duryodhana, as I said before, he's already the eldest son of the king, which means he is a crown prince. He's got it made. He's comfortable. He lives in a palace. He's got servants. He's got whatever it is you want. He's got it all. And he can't enjoy it. Why can't he enjoy it? He's obsessed looking at Yudhishthira. How sad. His obsession, Duryodhana's obsession with Yudhishthira, makes it impossible for him to enjoy and appreciate the blessings he already has. Which shows, and again, there's some very powerful messages in these verses. We want to make sure we don't overlook those messages. The message here is that to enjoy what we have requires a proper mind. And the word we use is antakarana shuddhi, purity of mind. One with a pure mind enjoys what you have. One with an impure mind is unable to enjoy what you have, no matter how much you have. Which means getting more and more and more may not even be enough. Which is why, as we'll see, the solution to Duryodhana's problem, look at this, very, very significant. Duryodhana already has a lot. He sees Yudhishthira has even more. So one solution would be Duryodhana should find a way to get more. Right? And that would be stand to reason. If Yudhishthira has more than Duryodhana, Duryodhana can get more than Yudhishthira. But that won't even make him happy. He says, Tadbhuktam, whatever I enjoy, na avatimam. That doesn't please me. So Duryodhana acknowledges that even if he gets as much or more than Yudhishthira, he still won't be happy. So then what is the solution? Yudhishthira should come down. Yudhishthira should be destroyed. You can see where this is leading in a very serious direction. We'll see that in just a few minutes. So first message here is that our ability to enjoy whatever we've been given in life requires a proper mind, a mind that hasn't been poisoned by jealousy, etc. Then he says, Jwalantim iva kaunteya vivarna karani mama. Just nice poetry. All of this, of course, is poetry. Shakuni commented that Duryodhana was pale, colorless. So he says, Vivarna karanim mama, the cause for my paleness is what? Jwalantim iva kaunteya. Kaunteya, by the way, Kaunteya is not always Arjuna. The sons of Kunti are 5. Any of them can be Kaunteya. So here Kaunteya means Yudhishthira. So Kaunteya in Yudhishthira, Jwalantim iva, he is shining. The cause, Duryodhana says, the cause for my paleness is his shining. Nice poetry. The cause for my paleness is his shining. Do you see some competition there? Wow. Competition amongst cousins. Competition is another factor. So many people have this unquestioning conclusion that competition is good. From a surface level, what can you say? This country is incredibly competitive. And the competition that goes on in this country, without doubt, has contributed to the monetary success of people in this country. Any doubt about that? Competition works if the goal is money and power. You can't argue. This is Duryodhana's argument. If you want money and power, be competitive. But is that really the goal of life? So you can be competitive, you can get money and power, and still be miserable and discontent. That we understand. And that's where Duryodhana doesn't understand. So he is highly competitive. He says the cause for my paleness is how Yudhishthira shines in brilliance. Na kvachid hi maya drishtas, na kvachid hi maya drish, tadrisho naiva chashrutaha, tadrisho naiva chash, yadrik dhanagamo yagne, yadrik dhanagamo panduputrasya dhimataha, panduputrasya dhim. Start with the third line. Yadrik dhana agamaha yagne. Yagne in Yudhishthira's ritual. Yagne in the ritual, in that Rajasuya yajna conducted by Yudhishthira. He says that the dhana agamaha, the amount, yadrik, the amount of dhana, wealth, which agamaha, the amount of wealth which came to Yudhishthira in that ritual as a result of that Rajasuya yajna, that wealth, the wealth belonging to whom? Pandu putrasya, that son of Pandu, referring to Yudhishthira, who is, and even, it's nice here, that even Duryodhana acknowledges that Yudhishthira is dhimataha, he is wise. So that wise son of Pandu, Yudhishthira, the amount of wealth that came to him as a result of that Rajasuya yajna, that elaborate ritual, that amount of wealth, tadrishaha, that much, nakwachit hi maya drishtaha, nakwachit, nowhere, maya drishtaha, I have never seen that much wealth anywhere, tadrishaha, that much, na eva cha shrutaha, nor have I heard of so much wealth. The amount of wealth that Yudhishthira gained in the performance of that Rajasuya yajna, I have never seen so much wealth in my life. I've never even heard of so much wealth in my life. You can see now he started off with his very philosophical comments. Now notice they're not so philosophical. So he starts with this fancy rationalization of his feelings. Now he's just saying, hey, I've never seen so much wealth. You can see his jealousy coming out once again. And we'll see that even more clearly in this last verse spoken by Duryodhana. Tam drishtva pandu putrasya, tam drishtva pandu putrasya, Shriyam paramikamaham, Shriyam paramik, Shantim na parigacchami, Shantim na parigach, Dahyamanena chetasa, Dahyamanena chetasa. Tam drishtva, tam shriyam drishtva. Shriyam paramikam. He says, drishtva, having seen, tam shriyam, that wealth. What kind of wealth? Paramikam, that limitless wealth, that amazing wealth, that tremendous wealth, Pandu Putrasya, of the son of Pandu, of Yudhishthira, having seen that amazing amount of wealth that Yudhishthira has, aham shantim na parigachami. Aham, I, na parigachami, I don't find any shanti, any peace. Ironic, isn't it? What does Duryodhana really want? Notice he says, having seen the wealth of Yudhishthira, shantim nam parigachami, I don't find any peace. Does Duryodhana really want the wealth, or does he really want the peace? He wants peace. He wants inner peace. Who doesn't want inner peace? If I gave you $1 million, but along with that $1 million came a condition that would make you absolutely miserable for the rest of your life, would you take that $1 million? Of course not. Because ultimately we all want inner peace, shantam. Duryodhana also wants inner peace. What is the problem? Duryodhana thinks that seeing Yudhishthira come down and seeing his wealth and prestige go up, that will give him shanti. That's what Duryodhana thinks. So Duryodhana also implies wrong. I mean, not get into etymology here. He doesn't think properly. There's something wrong with his values. His value, his natural value, everyone has an inherent value for peace. But Duryodhana has wrongly concluded that gaining power, prestige, status, and wealth, and seeing Yudhishthira come down off of his high position, Duryodhana wrongly thinks that will give him peace. This is a huge mistake in life that we're all subject to making, and that is if we're not clear about what is truly important. We saw that in a prior verse. We're seeing that again right here. So he says, seeing Yudhishthira's tremendous wealth, shantim na parigachami, I don't find any peace. Why? Dahyamanena chetasa. Due to the dahyamanena, due to the burning, chetasa, the burning in my heart. What is burning in my heart prevents him from enjoying peace. What is burning in his heart, of course, is jealousy. If he wants peace, what should he do for the sake of peace? There are two choices. One way of getting peace is to get rid of the jealousy that burns in his heart. Wouldn't that be the most obvious way to enjoy peace, is to get rid of the jealousy in his heart? But he doesn't think clearly. He thinks the way to get peace is what? More wealth, more power, prestige, status on one hand. On the other hand, drag this fellow down into the dirt, referring to Yudhishthira. He thinks, Duryodhana thinks, that is the way through which he will quell the burning of his heart, and so that he can find peace. So, having heard this, Shakuni is on hand. Shakuni says, Shakuni uvacha, Shakuni ruvacha, Yam etam uttamam lakshmim, Yam etam uttamam Drishtavanasi Pandava, Drishtavana Tasya prapta vupayam me, Tasya prapta vupayam, Shrunu satya parakrama, Shrunu satya parakrama. So, Shakuni is on hand to give advice. God save us. We often speak of the value of satsanga. Satsanga, as you know, means association with good people. Satsanga is actually held as, you'd be surprised to hear this, of all spiritual practices, satsanga is extolled as the most powerful. Amazing. Of all spiritual practices, satsanga is extolled as the most powerful. Why? If you are in the company of great people, spiritual people, wise people, it'll rub off on you. All the other sadhanas will come as a result. The being in the presence of great wise people is considered the biggest blessing. So there's the counterpart of satsanga. Sat here means good person. The counterpart is called dussanga. being in the presence of the other kind of people. As Puja Swamiji used to say, there are two kinds of people in the world. There are people who are wise, and then there are the otherwise. Satsanga means being in the company of the wise. Dussanga means being in the company of the otherwise. Duryodhana was very intelligent. Shakuni also, highly intelligent. But now, intelligence is just a tool. The question is, how do you employ that tool? Like in the 1940s, nuclear power was discovered. A powerful tool. But how is that powerful tool employed? Is it employed to provide power and energy for millions of people? Or is it employed in the form of bombs to kill millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of people? So, the value of a tool depends on how it's employed. Intelligence is a tool. Duryodhana has that intelligence. Yudhishthira has that intelligence. Shakuni also has that intelligence. How is it employed? Well, we'll see how Shakuni employs it. He says, Yam etam uttamam lakshmim drishtavanasi pandave. He says to Duryodhana, Yam etam uttamam lakshmim, that amazing wealth, that uttamam, incomparable, nice translation, that incomparable wealth, drishtavanasi, that you saw, Pandave, that again, Pandu also can mean any of the five Pandavas. Here it refers to Yudhishthira. So that incomparable wealth that you saw in the possession of Yudhishthira, tasyaha praptau, to gain that wealth, upayam, there is a means. Upayam is a means. A means for what? Praptau, a means to acquire, tasyaha, that great wealth. The means to attain that great wealth. Whose wealth? The wealth belonging to Yudhishthira. The means to obtain means what? Steal. But he doesn't use that word. He says a means to obtain that tremendous wealth that Yudhishthira possesses, the means, the upayam, the means to obtain that great wealth, me shrinu, listen to me. I have the means. I have a plan. A man with a plan. I have a plan on how to obtain Yudhishthira's wealth. Shrinu, listen to me. Satya Parakrama. He addresses Duryodhana. Duryodhana addressed here as the one, interesting choice of words. Satya Parakrama. The one who is victorious through truth. That's what it means. So a little kind of heavy on the praise, don't you think? So this is Satya Parakrama, O Duryodhana, O paragon of truth. There is a means to gain Yudhishthira's wealth. What does that means? Aham haksheshva bhignataha, aham hakshveshya bhignataha, prativyamapi bharata, prativyamapi hridayagnya panagnyascha hridayagnya paragnyascha visheshagnyascha devane visheshagnyascha de. He says, Prithvyam api, in the second line, Bharata, O mighty Duryodhana, Prithvyam api, in the entire world, aham abhignataha, I am the best knower. I am the one who is most expert. Aham abhignataha, I am in the entire world, I am the expert. The expert in what? Aksheshu. Aksha, dice. I am the greatest expert in the world in the play of dice. Aksha. See, the word aksheshu is hidden in there. In the performance of dice. He says, I am aham hridayagnaha. I know the essence. Hridaya, heart. But I know the essence of the game, which means I know how to throw the dice. Apparently, he could control the dice, or he knew exactly what the dice would roll every time. So he was hridayagnaha. He knew how to roll the dice. He was panagnaha. Pana means wager. He knew how to make the right wager. So if you know what the dice are, but you don't know how to wager, not much good. So he knew how to throw the dice. He knew panagnaha. He knew how to wager. And visheshagnaha. He knew all the details. He says, I know how to throw the dice. I know how to bet. I know all the details, devane, in this game. Devana means game. In this game, I know all the details of play. And aham abhignaha prithvyam. I am in the entire world, I am the expert. You know where this is going? Dyuta priyascha kaunteyo, dyuta priyascha kaun, nacha janati devitum, nacha janat. Ahutaschaisyati vyaktam, ahutaschaisyati vyaktam, divya vedyahayasvatam, divya vedyahayasyatvam. Good. Dyuta priyahacha kaunteyaha. He knew this. He knew that Kaunteya here again means Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is Dyuta Priyaha. He's fond of gambling. Very interesting. Yudhishthira, as you know, is often referred to as Dharma Raja. He was the most right. He was an embodiment of righteousness. He was the most righteous. He was acknowledged by everyone as being an embodiment of righteousness, and yet he had a weak point. Dyutaha, gambling. What a wonderful realism in this story. Too often, stories show great people as being perfect. Very often, stories will paint great people as being perfect. What human being is perfect? There is not a human being who has ever lived on this planet who is perfect. And we actually do an injustice when we present people as being perfect. They're great. But if we present them as being perfect, it's like we're not looking. We're not seeing the truth of who they are. And the fact is that they are great in spite of their perfections. What an important message. An important message for all of us, because we all have plenty of imperfections. But those imperfections do not prevent us from being great or righteous. So, here, the most righteous of all, Yudhishthira, as great as he was, he had a human failing. He was fond of gambling. Dyuta priyaha. Not only was he fond of gambling, but apparently, Everyone knew. Shakuni knew. Everyone knew. So Yudhishthira is fond of gambling. Not only that, Nacha janati devi tum. He's fond of gambling, but he doesn't know how to play. He's not skillful. Shakuni says, I'm the most expert player. Yudhishthira is fond of gambling, but he doesn't know how to play. Ahutaha cha, and if you invite him, eshyati vyaktam, he will come. Eshyati vyaktam, he will come and participate in a gambling duel. If in a gambling game, in a dice game, he will come if you invite him. So he says, Divyava iti ahvayasva tam. Actually, the Sanskrit here is a little hard to see. Divyava. For our Sanskrit students, first person imperative dual. Divyava. The two of us must play. Divyava. The two of us must play. Meaning Shakuni and Yudhishthira. Divyava. The two of us must play iti. Therefore, ahvayasva. Invite. This is a command to not just to Duryodhana, but also to Father Dhritarashtra. Ahvayasva. Invite tam. Invite him. Invite him. We must play. Invite him to come. He will certainly come and play. Why? He's fond of playing dice. But Shakuni is the most expert in all the world, according to him. And Yudhishthira, on the other hand, doesn't know how to play well at all. This is a formula for disaster, but he suggests invite him. And I think this is a good place to stop. So there's a lot of story here, but there's also a lot of very profound observations on human nature. So far, we're saying observations mostly about Duryodhana, a little bit about Shakuni. Now, in the coming verses, we're going to see an examination of King Dhritarashtra. What goes on in his mind. Dhritarashtra, well, let me not, we'll just see it in the next class, but we're going to see Dhritarashtra's inner struggle in terms of how to handle his son, how to handle this problem. And we'll see that, and we'll see Dhritarashtra's mistakes. We'll also see some positive things. That's another nice thing. As we see a defect in Yudhishthira, his fondness or weakness for gambling, we're going to see in our next class something very positive about Yudhishthira. About Dhritarashtra. We'll see something very positive in King Dhritarashtra's character. We'll see that in our next class. Okay. Some announcements. Tomorrow is the 5th Sunday of the month, so that we will not have a program for children. We will, though, have our mindful awareness meditation at 5 p.m. tomorrow, as usual. Also, 6:15 will be our satsang, question and answer, tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'll give you a heads up, as they say. A week from Sunday, we'll do another Nididhyasana session. A week from Sunday will be the advanced contemplation or advanced meditation in place of that satsanga. The weather is fairly nice today, so it's warm out. We've got a lot of leaves on the ground, and it would be really nice if some of you could stay back and help to remove those leaves before it gets too cold, before it rains, and all of that. We have a lot of rakes, and it's very pleasant to do that on a day like today. The weather is mild. They have some food heated and prepared for you. So if you're able to stay back after class, please help. You'll grab a rake some leaves, do some nice seva, and then after an hour or so, then you can come in and have some nice lunch together. So please stay back and help if you can. Library will be open after class. We'll conclude with our prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.